Like Martina, I too am a bogger, as we're described, somebody from the Midlands of Ireland. Martina is from Dangan, and not too far away is my hometown of Mountmellick, the Irish for which is Mointeach Meelick, which is the turf house on the marshes. So a town that for centuries is very closely associated with turf and bogs and peat and the Midlands of Ireland. And I'm delighted, therefore, to have been asked to officially open and launch your deliberations and discussions and evidence here in Tullamore. You've got a really exciting programme. Listening to Catherine, one can feel the enthusiasm for change and the manner in which over the years, even over the course of my lifetime, the relationship between peat and bogs and people has continued, has evolved and developed and changed further. And I know that by the end of your experience here, you will have given us, as well as yourselves, great ideas for further thought, development, expansion. Also delighted that Marian Harkin is here, one of our members of the European Parliament, Europe playing such a more important role in our day-to-day activities. And I'm also delighted to see the firm association here with Bord Namona, the Turf Development Board, a body that has for generations had an integral and really close association with almost every family here in the Midlands. But most of all, I want to welcome you, the delegates. Looking through the list, one can see that we are now firmly established as, you know, an international group, the Peatland Society, gaining from experience and expertise from abroad. And I want to welcome all our guests to the heart of the Irish Midlands. It might be a little exaggeration to say that you've come from the four corners of the earth, but I know many of you have travelled a great distance to be with us this morning, and I know that your contribution will be valued. It's also fitting that 61 years after the first International Peat Congress in Dublin, this leading international conference will adopt an entirely new approach to the past debate. In the Middle Ages, this region was a repository of Gaelic culture, one of the last strongholds of the native Irish resistance to foreign dominance. By the time we achieved our independence in the early 1920s, this region was one of the most underdeveloped in the country. The prospects for development of the Midlands of Ireland was not particularly promising. However, the region had a resource which you can see all around you, no matter where you look. And I refer to the great peat boglands of the Midlands of Ireland. This area, for example, is some of the finest remaining peatlands in Ireland, including fens such as Finloch, raised bogs such as All Saints, Mongan, and Sharavogue, Raheen Moor, and Clara, which you will see, the excellent mountain blanket bog on the border of my own county of Laois. Peat and peatlands are hugely important for all sorts of reasons: ecosystem, as a habitat, as a resource. Our peatlands are also a source of artistic inspiration. Our bogs have touched Irish imagination and sentiment. They influenced our literature, coloured our poetry, called across the seas to our emigrants. It's impossible to quantify even the therapeutic effects of these extensive, open and silent areas, silent on the spirit of modern Irish people. Bogs also act as a vault or time capsule for many historical objects, particulars of which you will no doubt hear during the course of this afternoon. All kinds of interesting discoveries have been made in our boglands, including the remains of prehistoric settlements, dugout canoes from the Midlands of Ireland, Bronze Age weapons, a stunning Iron Age golden collar which is in our museum in Dublin, medieval leather shoes, indeed the famous bog butter, and also, of course, human remains with bone structures preserved in an extraordinary way, having been buried for thousands of years, rather inelegantly referred to as bog bodies. And then, of course, there is the folklore of the region. Many beliefs and superstitions grew up about the bogs. It was customary, when cutting turf, to leave 3 steps of the turf uncut in order to ensure an element of good luck. This was often done to leave some turf for the fairies, to avoid the curse of St. Columkill, one of the many holy people of the region. It was believed that the saint was once trapped in a bog hole. He laid a curse on all who didn't cut the 3 steps. Peatlands for energy is, of course, of great importance. In Ireland, as indeed elsewhere across Northern Europe, hand-won peat was used as a household fuel for hundreds of years. A week's cutting would usually provide sufficient fuel for each family. The amount required was measured by the load, that is, the load of 1 horse and cart. It was said that a good team of 4 men, cutting and lifting and wheeling and spreading, could account for 25 loads in a day. But they would need, and I quote a famous quote, they would need to be strong in the back and weak in the head to work this hard. I can safely say here from a public platform in Tullamore without fear of contradiction that one of the worst memories of my youth was the few days on the bog, Clonsaki bog between Mountmelick and Portlaoise. It was hard work made worse by the lack of sun cream for the fair-skinned like myself and Pat Fitzgerald and others. It was really difficult, and it's not something that I would like to go back to. The bottles of tea, the big slices of bread with the strawberry jam. Luckily, I only did it maybe for 1 week in the summer as a primary school child in the 1960s. The unexploited potential of Irish peatlands attracted the attention of early Irish governments. We believed, and they believed, that the bogs could be transformed into a productive and fruitful source of energy, something which was important in terms of our resources. In 1934, when the government finally tackled the peat question, its first steps were both cautious and circumspect. Cautious in that it set out merely to increase output and improve the quality of the hand-won turf, but circumspect in that the Turf Development Board, set up for that purpose, took the precaution of studying continental peat industries before selecting those methods and machines adaptable for the Irish conditions. In 1946, this early success saw the Turf Development Board transform into Bord na Móna, which became one of the most significant industrial enterprises in the country and one of the leading companies in the world regarding peat development. Incidentally, 65 years ago, my own father, who was a minister, long-standing member of Parliament for this area, attended the opening of the first peat-fired electricity station at Portarlington in County Laois, about half an hour's drive from here. In fact, his brother, my uncle, was one of the many skilled tradesmen who worked on the building of the power station, and in particular the large landmark which was the cooling tower. I remember going by Portarlington as a child with my parents, with my father in particular, who told me that on completion of the job, the tradesmen did an Irish jig across the top of it and waved down to the people of Portarlington before the opening took place. Such was the excitement and enthusiasm of the area, and that was true not only in Portarlington but also other landmarks across County Offaly, Road, Ferban and Shannon Bridge, some of which have stood the test of time and are still very much in operation. So the story of Bord na Móna is a great example of what can be achieved in terms of regional development for a disadvantaged area away from the urban areas. The company was the foundation upon which the local economy was built. Bord na Móna trained skilled craftsmen. It employed engineers, and chemists and accountants, other professionals. It became one of the world leaders in terms of innovation, not alone in its harvesting techniques, but also in product development. If you look at your map, I point to towns such as Kilcormac and Ferban and Bracknell and Road, which were actually built by Bord na Móna and the ESB. towns that almost had the exclusive rights to employment in the area. And I won't mention sport, particularly a weekend that Laois have just defeated Offaly hurlers. But again, I can safely say, if it wasn't for Borden and the ESB, Offaly would perhaps never have won All-Ireland Championships in 71 and 72 and later. And I'm delighted that some of the stars of those days are with you this afternoon. I want to make brief reference to peatlands as an environmental resource. Through the work of many international and national scientists to study our bogs, the good work of our non-governmental organisations such as the Irish Peatland Conservation Council, we now appreciate something that perhaps we didn't do back in the 50s and 60s, the significant value of the ecological services provided by our remarkable boglands, which contribute to flood control, the enhancement of our water quality and the important role as a carbon sink. Ireland is committed to playing its part in safeguarding Europe's fragile natural resources and addressing the major environmental challenges faced by mankind. Since the early 1980s, we have designated bogs as being suitable for conservation. Natural heritage areas, special areas of conservation. The National Parks and Wildlife Service has acquired around 7,000 hectares of bog for conservation, mainly from Borden. And this has assisted in the restoration of several bogs, one of which you will see in Clara as being a venue on your field trip itinerary. I want to refer to Quilcha, the state-run forestry company, which has also undertaken restoration involving the removal of a number of plantation on our bogs. So where domestic turf cutters are exercising traditional rights in designated areas, we have established a scheme of compensation to encourage the cessation of cutting in these areas. There is also a relocation project designed to find new sites for private turf cutters who have relocated from bogs which have been designated areas of conservation, and you'll also see more information on this when you visit Kilranny Bog later today. So in conclusion, let me thank you for being here. Let me wish you well in your endeavours. And let me say to you that the key challenge for us here in Ireland is to ensure successful conservation and restoration of our most valuable areas of peatland, while at the same time continued exploitation in a limited way for those that have been doing so for generations in terms of private fuel consumption for their families and also in many respects for commercial use. I believe this conference will provide an opportunity to ensure that these issues will be thoroughly discussed and debated, from wise use to responsible use, from sustainability to ecosystem services. The many and varied perspectives and viewpoints will be asked to come together to have a real conversation, as Catherine O'Connell has said, about the way forward. The core objective of this event must be to ensure that each of you will have the opportunity to challenge your own thinking by learning from each other and advance mutual understanding of these issues. I hope that you will have a fruitful exchange of views. I know that you will have messages for me as a government minister and local parliamentarian for the area. I very much regret, although, especially when I see the first of the summer sunshine, I very much regret that I won't have the opportunity to stay with you for the entirety of your proceedings, but I really look forward to receiving the report of your exchange of views. I want to encourage you to confront even the most daunting of intellectual challenges. I'm honoured by your invitation to address you this morning. I wish you every success in your debates, and I'm delighted that you chose Tullamore for your venue. I'm delighted that we're joined by the Chairman and new Chief Executive of Borden, again underlining the importance of this event for Borden and for the area. I wish you success, and thank you.